Hello everyone and welcome to this month's episode of Jig Retro, where I give my spoiler-free review of Metroid Dread. This game has been anticipated for a seriously long time and came completely from left field when it was both announced and released way after the initial announcement of Metroid Prime 4, which is yet still to be released. This game represents the fifth installment and potential conclusion to the 2D Metroid story arc, which started with the original Metroid released on the NES way back in 1987 and was last seen in Metroid Fusion for the Game Boy Advance in 2002. I've enjoyed so much of the Metroid series up until this point, with my favourites being Super Metroid, Metroid Zero Mission on the Game Boy Advance, which is a remake of the original, and Metroid Fusion for the Game Boy Advance. I honestly haven't played much of the original game on the NES, as well as its Game Boy sequel, including the sequel's remake on the Nintendo 3DS, as this is a console that I have never owned. But Mercury Steam, who put that remake together, developed Metroid Dread for the Nintendo Switch. The first thing that I want to say in this review is that Metroid Dread returns to that ominous and isolated feeling of Super Metroid, with the soundtrack being quite subtle when adding to the game experience, rather than being some bombastic tunes that you can listen to in your car and whatnot. This really adds to the atmosphere of this game. It also uses specific music and little tones here and there that make it fit right into the game series. Being quite the veteran of Metroidvania style games, at this point I feel that this is a wonderful return to the Queen herself, and although I did pre-order the game, I was still skeptical as to whether I would enjoy this game as much as others in the series. Having completed it, I can definitely confirm that I shouldn't have worried. This is a fantastic and satisfyingly challenging game. For a Metroidvania, I felt that this game was actually quite linear in a positive way. As said, this may be due to my experiences with other games in this genre, where I've definitely felt more free, but I felt quite gated to a certain route throughout much of this game. In fact, I only really found myself backtracking in the latter quarter of the game in order to gather the last few abilities and upgrading my health, rockets and bombs in preparation for what I assumed would be my final confrontation. I enjoyed every minute of this huge map and always felt like I was making good progress with collecting items and upgrading myself in satisfying increments. Every big boss battle and every minor boss battle felt like a real fight, but every single attempt at these guys gave you just enough to want to continue, of what is sure to be multiple attempts. I literally found myself getting better every single time I picked up the controller, but no doubt about it, you are going to have some patience and skill with these bosses. Now let's talk about the new enemy encounters. This is where I did find some genuine frustration, but that's because on the whole these encounters and the eventual killing of these hunter machines is so tense. I wouldn't necessarily say scary, but certainly very tense indeed, and getting close to but not quite getting away at times led me to some real screams of frustration. With that said, I wouldn't change this aspect of the game at all, and I feel it was a real important new aspect to both set it apart from other games in the series and adding much needed variety to the game, while still echoing encounters from the SAX from the Metroid Fusion game. The action in this game is very satisfying, with the return of the counter from Samus Returns remake, yet it is not relied upon in the same way as it is in that game. I chose a more traditional attacking approach with lots of shooting and dodging. One aspect that genuinely surprised me in a good way was how Samus moves and feels in the game. She is much quicker and smoother than ever, with running, jumping and sliding, making you feel like some sort of parkour professional. Amazing stuff. The only potential weak spot I can potentially foresee in this pretty flawless game is the controller button real estate. Once all abilities are unlocked, it feels that every button is used and necessary to beat some of these beast bosses. The hand cramp from managing this control scheme is very real. There is enough story here for any Metroidvania style game in my opinion, and it's a nice addition as well as a satisfying conclusion to the series. There are a couple of really nicely handled revelations that won't be spoilt here. Completing this game took me to the 11-hour mark on this playthrough, and I feel that I managed to gain a pretty solid amount of items. In conclusion, I can happily recommend this game to absolutely anybody. Although admittedly newcomers to Metroidvania style games or newcomers to the series might be better starting elsewhere, but experiencing this game is a complete no-brainer for fans of the series or the genre. I hope you have enjoyed this review of a modern video game for once. Please check out my other content as well as like, share and subscribe to get the latest monthly episodes. Until next time, much love, look after yourselves and each other and get your geek on with Jig Retro.